Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Brandon here again at Vape Extreme. Today we're going to do kind of a different video. I've been getting a few emails on rebuildable atomizers. A lot of questions based on, what's the best rebuildable atomizer, what's the best setup, what's the best materials to use. Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I can't answer that question. It is a matter of preference. It really depends on how you like your draw, cosmetics, and then of course when it comes to materials, some of it will do, I don't know, some people say they can taste certain things in nichrome and certain things in canthal and yada yada yada. I haven't really noticed the difference myself personally, but hey, it's, I don't know, maybe I don't have the vaping taste buds, I guess, I don't know. But anyway, that's besides the point. Now, one of the biggest concerns that I generally have with rebuildable questions, for the most part, guys, if you are getting into rebuildable atomizers, I really do hope at that point you are somewhat familiar with Ohm's law, the limitations of your mod or mech that you're using, and of course the limitations of the batteries being the biggest thing, because you don't want to go building sub-ohm coils on a battery that only has like a 2 amp discharge rate, which for the most part, if you're using a regular variable voltage, variable wattage mod, in any way, shape, or form for that matter, even the MVP. Well, actually, these don't. Bad example, dumbass. But I don't really have any other. I don't really have any variable wattage mods besides that one. But anyway, when it comes to variable wattage and variable voltage mods, you can use batteries like that simply due to the fact that they're generally a higher milliamp hour, like 32 and up, 3200 milliamp hours, or 2600 milliamp hours, depending on what battery you're purchasing. But they have all the circuitry basically built into the actual PV. So you don't really have to worry about any real load bearing on the battery. Everything's basically done in the processing unit for that point. Now, when it comes to mechanical mods, guys, of course, for the most part, there is no circuitry in mechanical mods. Basically, you have a switch, a couple of tubes. This is a really bad one to pick. Or I should have threaded it the other way. You'll have a tube, a pin, a center post for your atomizer connection, and a battery. This is basically what a mechanical mods consist of. Your mechanical mods will generally consist of, if I still have it, yes. Or sorry, your APVs will generally have some form of circuitry. This here came out of VAMO. Actually, the circuit board still works perfectly fine. It's just the display had missed a line on it, so it's kind of hard to read the display, but it still works just fine. But this is basically what you'll have in any form of PV. So, or APV, sorry. So yeah, there's things to kind of keep in mind when it comes to mechs and rebuildables. Batteries are your main source. Another big thing that I've noticed a lot of people have been asking is, what's the best mech mod to upgrade to? Upgrade. Well, you're not necessarily upgrading. if you're already using an APV for the most part, you're pretty much going to get about any performance that you're going to get out of any mechanical mod, if not actually better, simply due to the fact that you can adjust the voltage or the wattage or both with the mod. So you can actually turn it up or turn it down, which is kind of key when it comes to vaping and atomizers and so on and so forth. Mechanical mods, for the most part, they will use battery voltage and battery voltage only. So basically, for the most part, when you plug a battery in and it charges, fresh off the charger, you're looking at around 4.2 volts to be the highest voltage that you're ever going to get out of any battery, whether it's an 18650, 18490, 18350, 16340, 10440, so on and so forth. You're basically only going to get, the highest voltage is going to be around 4.2 volts. As you start to vape, it'll generally drop down to about 3.7 for the most part, and maintain 3.7 volts for most of its life, and then it will generally start to tail off, really down to the point where the battery's completely dead, which of course you do not want to do with lithium ion or any other LiPo style batteries. You don't want to drain these dead, because it generally actually takes a lot of life out of the batteries themselves. So when it comes to the question of upgrading, it's not an upgrade. It really isn't. When you get to the point where you're considering upgrading to a mechanical mod, hopefully you've got some experience with rebuildables, because basically what happens at that point is you're going to be building coils, for the most part, from about an ohm under, because you can't really take a mechanical mod and, let's say, a 2.5 ohm, I don't even know what they're using, a Spire tank, I guess, for a bottom coil atomizer. I guess that would be a very good example. You're not going to get the performance that you would on something like this. You'll get that performance for a very brief period until the battery starts to drop, and then it's all downhill from there. With the actual APVs, you can adjust the voltage. It will maintain that voltage pretty much until the battery dies. So I don't know, just kind of some food for thought, guys. If you're not really into rebuildable atomizers, mechanical mods probably aren't going to be your best choice. And of course, that's my 2 cents. I know some people have different opinions, and that's fine. That's not a big deal. You can have your own opinion. That's why we live in the world that we live in. But now, the other biggest thing that I generally get is the best setup. Well, the best setup or coil build is going to depend a lot on your vaping style and your vaping habits. Hoping that by this point, if you're considering getting into a rebuildable, that you are going to be familiar with Ohm's law and how wiring things in series and parallel works. I know this is ridiculous that I'm actually going to do this, but I am going to draw you a brief and short parallel diagram. Okay, so basically you have a positive and a negative, and we're going to pretend that this is your battery. I can't write this upside down, so I'm going to write it my way because that's the way I'm sitting. So at that point, we're going to do real simple math. We're going to have a coil at 1 ohm, and we're going to have a at 1 ohm. So basically, when you're wiring things in parallel, your resistance will divide in half. So obviously, quick math, a 1 ohm coil and a 1 ohm coil, if you divide that in half, will actually give you a 0.5 ohm resistance by the time that you're done. When you're wiring these said coils, you are basically wiring a positive to a positive, and you're going to wire a negative to a negative. So in theory, what is actually happening is your battery's not seeing two separate 1 ohm coils. It is now seeing, use the scribbling, you are now seeing a 0.5 ohm coil. So that's basically how, sorry about the horrendous lighting here, but that's basically how it works. When you're doing them in series, which not too many people do to begin with, but basically you're going positive, negative, positive, negative. Oops, I should have went the other way with that. So here's your battery. This being your positive, and that being your negative. Now, when you're doing it in series, what happens is your resistance actually adds. So if you've got a, whoops, well, let's do it this way. If you've got a point, or there, 1 ohm coil, 1 ohm, 1 ohm, we'll actually see a 2 ohm coil. Right? Simple. Very simple. Guys, if you don't want to do the math in your head, of course there are Ohm's Law calculators out there, but that's just kind of a brief explanation on how resistance works. Now, the next part. What do I have for rebuildable atomizers? Well, I have a few. I'll try and set these up as neatly as I can. And then of course I have, oops, we'll do this. We'll have these ones here. So basically what I have here is, actually I won't even use that one because this is basically the AGI, which I've broken the tank on, wasn't able to do the review on, but you can still use it as a dripper. So that's basically how it's set up. Now, different styles, obviously you can tell, guys, they are, ranging in sizes, thickness. Most of the ones I have here are stainless steel, of course, but they range in, different sizes, different styles, different colors. There's the Scar, which I'm going to be doing a review on probably next. But there's a lot of different styles and not styles and features, different styles, different colors, different shapes, different sizes. It's, again, I can't really tell you what's the best rebuildable atomizer. Basically, when it comes down to it, stainless steel's a nice material because it's sturdy. Pretty much, I'm not going to say indestructible. It still dings and dents and everything else, but it's a decent material. Unlike, like say the X1, where it's made of aluminum, and the Smoke Tech Octopus, another one that's an aluminum body. All the other ones here are pretty much stainless steel. Of course, it's going to depend a lot on your center connector, whether it's nickel-plated brass or nickel-plated copper, or if it's copper directly, like it is in the Trident rebuildable. It's going to vary. It basically comes down to how you want to build, what you want to build with. and really how much you want to spend. Everything I own is a clone, pretty much. Yeah, everything I own is a clone. Except for my Provaria, which is dead, so it doesn't count. So yeah, pretty much everything I own is a clone. I can't speak to the originals because I don't have them. I've never had any of the originals in my hands to review. I know there's a few of them that I do not like, and I haven't actually done reviews on them yet. One being the Forge, or yeah, I guess that's what it's called, the Forge. It's a clone of some sort. It's a very horrible clone, but basically, I'm going to see if I can zoom this in just a touch. Get over here. Bring this in. Try and focus it in a bit. There. So basically, guys, what you have here is you have a center connector, which of course is your positive pin, and then you have two negative pins, which sets the deck up for a really nice dual coil setup. Downfall with these, dual coil setups generally require airflow from two holes. This has one. That's your main airflow hole to go actually into the atomizer. Other thing I dislike about this, there are 3 air holes on this for absolutely no reason whatsoever, because A, they are all the same size, they are all in the same location, so it's supposed to be a quote-unquote adjustable airflow. Not really adjustable if the airflow holes are all the same size and all in the same location. Kind of a poor design idea from the Chinese on that one. Now, the next one is the X1. The X1 atomizer is one that I use on a regular basis, simply due to the fact that even though fresh out of the box, it is junk. Probably one of the worst atomizers I'd ever used in my life, simply due to the fact, guys, it has a airflow hole that you cannot see. It has an airflow hole that is built into the bottom. So this little tube here is supposed to feed air to your coil, which I've got mine set off to the side. But your airflow is actually through the connector at the bottom here. You can see that, right? Airflow with rebuildables are key, very key. Simply due to the fact that generally, for the most part, you're building at a lower resistance, so it's going to get a little bit warmer, produce quite a bit more vapor. So that's kind of a key issue. If you have a rebuildable that is fed through the bottom, generally not a good design. But not all is lost. This is actually a really simple deck to build on because the posts are so high. This one here, I just did a quick build on it just to kind of try it out. I actually built this for another person. He had gotten it and hates it. Hates it. And I basically just said, well, here, try mine. And he loved it. He goes, well, what's the difference? Well, I modified mine very simply by drilling a 1/16 inch hole right where the coil is, and it works fantastic. The X1 atomizers, I think they're like $5 or $6 on most sites, and with seriously just drilling a simple hole makes this a world of difference. You could probably build a dual coil on here if you wanted to, one on each side. I haven't done that, just simply due to the fact that it doesn't have the holes in the actual posts, so they're kind of a pain. I don't know, I prefer the ones with the hole in the posts. But these work really well. Building materials, for what I use for the most part, my wicks are generally 100% organic cotton, non-bleached, and I use nichrome, 28 gauge nichrome for most of my builds. So anyway, I built this one. I'm going to return it back to the gentleman and have him vape on it and see what he thinks with a quick modification. It's actually a really nice atomizer. Cheap too. The iGo W. This is a really nice looking device. Where's my thing? The only downfall that I don't like about it is the airflow is tiny. Look at that tiny speck for a hole. Tiny, tiny, tiny. I don't even have a drill bit that will go in that hole. And I have some small drill bits. Apparently not one that's small enough for that. This one here is also set up for a dual coil. Other downfall, guys, there's only a single airflow hole. And if you try to mod it so that the airflow hole is on the other side, it's kind of right in the engraving. So that's the only reason why I haven't really tinkered with this one per se. But again, guys, nichrome wire and organic cotton. I find organic cotton gives you the best flavor so far for me, as opposed to silica, which is pretty much the only real other material that I've used. I don't know. I find it's a much better taste, I guess. A little cleaner. If you want something in a smaller form factor, this is the iGo S. It is generally designed with a platform for single coil setups. I do like these ones because it has the hole. If I can show that to you. It actually has the holes in the posts for your wires. I just find it makes it a little bit easier to build. And again, single airflow. These are nice for just the mouth hits. You can't really, if you were to drill it out, I'm sure you'd be alright doing some nice big lung inhales. But basically, for the most part, it's just a nice everyday kind of vape. Nothing where you're going to be, vaping up a room and, vaping everybody out type deal. It's a nice, actually, nice little atomizer. The SmokeTech Octopus, again, is a decent atomizer. I've seen a lot of reviews on these, and the ones that I've seen in the reviews look nothing like the one that I've got. Couple downfalls to it. There is no juice well at all for a rebuildable, and it's a dripping atomizer, so kind of a dumb design on SmokeTech's part, because all they really had to do is just kind of mill this out just a bit. Like, just mill out the deck, drill your holes, put your posts in, and you're rocking. I'm sure it's more complicated than that, but whatever. This, again, another nice build, or nice deck to build on, because it does have the holes. It's a toolless design, so you don't need a screwdriver or Allen keys for doing any rewicking or rewiring or recoiling, and again, guys, nichrome, organic cotton. That's pretty much what you're going to see in about 98% of my builds. The Trident, on the other hand, is my favorite to date on my RBA arsenal, simply due to the fact that set up for dual coil, so you have your 3 posts, center being of course your positive, and then your 2 external negatives. A nice decent size drip well, so you load this up with cotton, fill her up with juice, and you're banging. It's also got adjustable airflow holes, and there are actually 2 holes. There's one here and one on the other side. so that's nice as well. So you've got 2 air holes, and you can also set it up on a single coil build, and of course set your air holes accordingly. So that's nice. The Trident clones are a really decent build, or decently built. They're stainless steel, copper connections, which is nice. The other nice part too, and I'm not going to show you because I don't want to take this apart, but the actual posts have slots. So when you back the screws off, they come up and they'll expose that slot. So if you actually really felt like just taking the caps off, you can lay your wire in, put the screw down, and you're good to go. Not really a big concern for the 2 external negatives, but it is nice actually for the center post, because you can, makes it a little bit easier for laying your 2 wires in and snugging them both down at the same time type deal. Less issues that way, right? So there's that. Now, there are rebuildable tanks, which I'm not going to get into, simply due to the fact that this was more based on rebuildable atomizers. Now, there's kind of my preference. Batteries, when it comes to mechanical mods, guys, the Sony 30 amps, they're out there, they're available. A lot of vendors are carrying them. I haven't seen them at this point in Canada. I haven't been on the web lately, but I haven't really seen any Canadian vendors carrying these. Of course, you can get them on eBay, is where I picked these ones here up, and there are quite a few vendors in the States that are carrying them as well, but that's neither really here nor there. So batteries are another key thing when it comes to mechanicals. Now, common tools. Well, a couple things that I actually keep in my desk. These really aren't necessary, but I have them, so I use them irregardless. But basically just a decent pair of side cutters, just for clipping wires, cutting wicks, depending on what you're using. A couple decent pairs of tweezers. Tweezers are always very handy to use. It's better than trying to use needle nose pliers, just because the tips are a little bit smaller. Screwdrivers of all assortments and sizes. I have one screwdriver, which is actually this particular one here. This is what I actually use to wrap all of my coils on. I don't know what the size is. I haven't the faintest idea. I've never measured it, but it's basically just kind of a, I'm not going to say small, it's kind of a medium-size jeweler's screwdriver, and it's a Phillips head, which makes no difference either way. But this is basically what I use religiously to wrap my coils on for most of my builds. Pair of decent scissors. Very good for cutting cotton and silica wick. Surprisingly enough, guys, if you've never cut silica wick before, it doesn't cut very well. I actually generally use my side cutters when I use silica. Organic cotton. For the most part in the States, you can get this shit anywhere. I actually had to go to 3 different stores before I could actually find an organic cotton ball. I could find lots of cotton balls, but they were all treated and bleached and so on and so forth. You generally don't want to use anything that's been chemically treated unless you're going to wash it and boil it and so on and so forth. For me, way too much of a pain in the ass. I'd rather just grab one out of the bag, stretch it out, roll my wick up, and we're good to go. The next common thing that I generally use in building materials is, of course, silica wick. It comes in a variety of sizes. You can also get eco wool and a whole bunch of other shit that I've never tried. I try to keep it as simple for me as possible, but for the most part, I think this is 2mm wick. It's pretty much what I use in everything. I'll just build my coils to whatever size I need and go about it that way. And last but not least, nichrome, or your heating element wire. You can get nichrome, kanthal, or pretty much the two wires that you're going to be using, or two materials that you'll be using for the wires. It comes in a variety of sizes. You can also now get ribbon, which is basically just a paper thin strip of kanthal or nichrome, depending on what you're using. I can't speak on its performance because I've never used it. I haven't been able to get my hands on any of it, unfortunately, at this particular point in time. But I will, I don't know, I'll see what I can do and see if I can get my hands on some and do some builds for you guys. So yeah, that pretty much covers what I wanted to kind of get out and say. Basically, guys, the whole reasoning for the video is when it comes to rebuilding atomizers, tanks, even Genesis styles, keep in mind, guys, if you are using mechanical mods, there is no safety built in. You may have a little bit of safety on your battery, but for the most part, you don't have anything. There's really nothing there. So my only advice, guys, is, sorry, I forgot one very, 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 very important tool, is of course the ohm meter, or the resistance checker. Canvapes.com is now carrying these, which is fantastic. I had actually got this from a Chinese supplier because when I had ordered this, Canvapes didn't have theirs in stock. They actually started carrying them after I'd gotten this, of course. The other thing that most people can use for checking your resistance is a regular ohm meter. Very simplistic to use, guys. You will actually see, for the most part, there will be a resistance. Let's see if I can show you that. So there is your ohms, right? So seeing as in most cases you are going to be building let's pull these out. You are going to be building pretty much everything under 200 ohms, as you can see. Let's use this for a pointer. There we go. Well under 200 ohms. Well under that. If you try to measure it at 2,000 ohms or 20 kilo ohms or 200 kilo ohms or 2,000 kilo ohms, it just won't read. You have to basically put it on the lowest resistance setting on your ohm meter, or sorry, voltmeter, or DVM, whatever you want to classify it as. Now, they come in a variety of different styles and setups and configurations and so on and so forth. Some have turn knobs, some don't, but for the most part, guys, if you're not familiar with an ohm meter, best way to go is put it on resistance, go to the lowest resistance that is labeled on it, and you will pretty much get a reading on whatever you're looking for. Now, to give you a prime example, I will plug this back in. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to read or see the display. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, that's the IGO L. So right now it is reading a 0.3, well, this connection's gone kind of goofy. Or maybe it's the coil, this is the one that I took apart the other day and just never finished it. I think it is. Oh no, that's the one I gotta fix. Let's go with this one. So this one here is reading a. Let's see if I can get that to shadow. No, I can't shadow it because I keep putting my hand in front of the camera. It's reading a 1 ohm load, right? So now, if I turn that off, if I place my negative terminal to the outside, like so, and get that in the camera, and put my positive, you will see that it is reading, well, this one here is reading 0.13, 0.14. Now, keep in mind, guys, resistance, digital voltmeters are going to be a lot more accurate, just simply due to the fact that if you touch it with your finger, it will actually change the resistance. Well, that's changing it drastically because I'm sliding off the pin. But you get the general idea. You can also actually, guys, you can measure it right at the pin. We'll give you another more accurate measurement, but it kind of gives you a rough idea, right? So voltmeters are key, or ohm meters, whatever you're going to use for measuring resistance. But basically, guys, I just wanted to give you a quick heads up, and yeah, I can't really give you any advice of what's the best. I can tell you what I like. I like the Tridents. They're a nice, easy atomizer to build on. The X1s, very cheap, inexpensive. You know, with a real quick modification, you're pretty much golden in that case. You know, for the going out on the town kind of style of vaping. Basically, anything smaller, like the EGO-S, the Octopus, you know, basically all the same ideas. So yeah, sorry guys, the video ran longer than I was expecting, but I hope this information helped you. Please, guys, if you do have any questions, feel free to contact me at vapeextreme at gmail.com, and you know, we'll chit chat, and I'll try and answer any questions that you have. I also like to welcome all of my new subscribers, and I don't know why the hell I'm doing this at the end of the video, but I tried to shoot this video 5 times. I was just tending to my children, trying to get them into bed because they have school tomorrow. But anyway, so yeah, guys, I want to welcome all my new subscribers. Thanks for watching. I really do hope that any information on this channel helps you out. If not, there are plenty of reviewers out there doing vape reviews as well. Yeah. That's all I got for you for right now, guys. So, as always, let's just keep on vaping.